This postcard is about the Nullarbor Plain. We began our crossing of the Nullarbor Plain at Fowlers Bay. We'd spent the night there. It's a beautiful spot on the water. The bay is called Scott Bay, and we've camped there before, and it has beautiful sand dunes and a lovely bay. So we came out of there back onto the air highway and then just made our way across here past the Nullarbor Roadhouse to the head of Bight, and this is where the Bunda Cliffs start, just there, and they extend nearly across to the border. We spent our last night at one of the last spots on the cliffs, and we had a lovely view across this way. And then the next morning we crossed into Western Australia, down into Eucla, and then down to the old telegraph station, which is a sandstone building gradually being covered by the sand from the dunes. So the town used to be down there. It was not really a town, but they moved the buildings up high on the escarpment to Eucla. Then you come across, finish your crossing with, this includes the straight bit of road. I think that's this bit here. And then our last night on the Nullarbor was spent at Newman Rocks, which is not far out of Norseman. And then the next morning we came into Norseman and then down to Esperance.
We began our Nullarbor trip by having a quick swim at Scott's Beach in the Fowlers Bay Conservation Park. It had been 45 degrees, so it was nice to have a cool down swim. Did a bit of research on the Nullarbor and we found some interesting facts, so we've got 10 of them to go through with you. The first one is, where does the name Nullarbor come from? Well, it's a Latin name and it's two words, nullus arbor, and so we then get the word Nullarbor from that.
What does it mean?
No trees.
No trees.
That's what it means. However, there are, when you start to go on the Nullarbor, there are no trees, but then gradually you do see more and more a lower shrub type tree.
So how big is the Nullarbor? It's 11,000 kilometres from east to west, and the whole plain covers about 200,000 square kilometres. When you drive across the Nullarbor on the air highway, you're really only on the very edge. The railway line is quite a bit further inland, and the highway used to be along the next to the railway, but when they sealed it, they realigned it next to the coast, which is a much better tourist drive.
And did you know, Merrin, they only actually formed the new road in 1942. It was proposed in the 30s to do it, but the federal government wouldn't fund it because they didn't think it was a priority.
Right.
But for the war effort, all of a sudden it became a priority and the army built it. It was called the Forest Highway, and then both Western Australian government and the South Australian government renamed it the Air Highway. Sorry.
There you go.
The first motor car actually travelled across the Nullarbor in 1912, and it actually went very close to the Transcontinental Railway line.
So the Nullarbor is the world's largest piece of limestone. It's 300 metres thick, and the sand, when you do see some sand, we saw it at Eucla, is very soft and really fine. It feels a bit like gluten-free flour.
And it is home to Australia's longest and straightest bit of road of 146 kilometres long. It is not the longest in the world. Some will say it is. It's not. There's actually a road in Saudi Arabia that's 210 k's long. But it is home to the world's longest railway, straightest railway line on the Transcontinental Railway.
Because the Nullarbor is made of limestone, there's lots of caves. There are about 10,000 have been identified, which they think is only a small proportion of the total, and some of them are up to 34 kilometres long.
It's also home to the world's longest golf course. You can actually play 18 holes across the Nullarbor, starting in Ceduna and then finishing in Kalgoorlie. There's holes at various spots along the way, mainly at roadhouses and towns, but you can play 18 holes if you wish.
Also, because it's limestone, there's blowholes. There's about over 100,000 of them. We saw one. They're in two bands, one along the coast, and the second band is about 75 k's inland, which is incredible when you think that the air travels from the coast and it comes blasting out at about 70 k's an hour. And it's caused by barometric pressure, not by the tide, but it does come from the coast.
Yeah. And finally, we didn't see any, but there's over 100,000 camels roaming the Nullarbor. These are remnants of an old bygone era when camels were the main form of transport across the desert, and so they now are in the desert. And we didn't, as I said, didn't see any, but there's meant to be 100,000 of them.
The Nullarbor, you won't be surprised to hear, has very little rainfall. But if there was more rainfall, and it drains pretty quickly through the limestone, so it doesn't hang around very long. But if the rainfall was greater, it wouldn't be the Nullarbor Plain. It'd actually be a series of quite steep valleys. And that's our facts about the Nullarbor. So do you think it's a good road to go on?
Yes, I did. It's my second time across it. First time I did it with Richard, and we sort of sped across and didn't see a great deal, although we did see the Bunder Cliffs. But no, I think it's fantastic. It's a bit of a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say you've been across
Yeah.
the Nullarbor.
I think it's quite iconic. My favourite bit was probably the Bunder Cliffs. They were as beautiful as I'd seen in photographs. They really are stunning. They just drop away to nothing, and they're so tall.
Yeah.
And the dramatic Southern Ocean coming in.
And the landscape's changing all the time.
Yeah,
I
all the
thought.
time.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I'd highly recommend you do cross the Nullarbor if you've got time.